What does real-world success in business actually look like? Welcome to Bearcats Mean Business, the official podcast of the University of Cincinnati's Carl H. Linder College of Business, where inspiring career stories, honest lessons, and fresh business perspectives from the people building impact in the real world come together. Tune in for inspiration, practical business insights, and forward-looking thought leadership on how ambition turns into action. And now, for today's episode.
Dan, it's such a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm excited.
I think this is a great opportunity for us all to learn from your experience, your role model. I mean, I think your career journey is fascinating as an entrepreneur and as a leader. And I wondered if we could just dive in there. Because you started rehabbing a single property near UC, the University of Cincinnati. And it was, I think, in the 1980s. What did you see that others overlooked in right our backyard?
Well, I was a student at UC, and it was back in when the movie Animal House was filmed. And
Yeah.
honestly, you could not find a nice place to live.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about granite countertops. I'm really referring to windows that operated, maybe central air conditioning, off-street parking, just normal, middle class, regular people who want a nice place to live. And UC was emerging from really a commuter school to a university where people wanted to live there, and they just couldn't find good housing. And so what I wanted to do was create housing units that really didn't exist, and safe, clean, good working windows,
Functional.
maybe a dishwasher. And I remember the other landlord saying, "I don't know why you're fixing it up. You don't need to do that. They'll rent it anyway." And it was at a time long before the internet, of course, and so there was no reputational harm that other landlords had by treating their residents poorly. And I didn't care about that. I wanted to provide a product that didn't exist.
It strikes me that because you were a student at UC, you also knew how much it mattered to those who were actually living in those facilities. I mean, it was personal as well as professional.
I was never able to stay in one of my housing units for more than 1 year because they were so poorly maintained, and the landlords were not respectful of their residents. And I really wanted to change that.
I think it's remarkable how much you and your efforts have changed our region all around the campus. And thinking of you as an entrepreneur, because it's always about taking risks and managing uncertainty, but you were making bets on neighborhoods that a lot of people were avoiding at the time. How did you develop the confidence to keep investing when the outcome was so uncertain? Because that's such part of the process.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
It was more difficult than I thought it would be. Entrepreneurs by nature are extremely optimistic human beings. I really planted a flag in Corryville at the time, and Corryville was an outright dangerous neighborhood, but so perfectly located between what was then General Hospital, which is now UC Health, and the University of Cincinnati. And it was just, it's a pretty small neighborhood. It's really only 4 blocks by about 5 blocks. And it just didn't seem like a massive task to start rehabbing houses. And they were so beautifully located. But the crime kept popping up. I remember once we were rehabbing a multifamily building in Corryville, and the kids in the neighborhood kept throwing rocks through our new windows. And so I got a bunch of the kids together, and I said, every Thursday, the ice cream truck's going to come. I'm buying all the kids in the neighborhood ice cream from the ice cream truck if there are no broken windows this week. And that's ultimately how we got the kids in the neighborhood to start behaving. And I just had an open wallet at the ice cream truck that came down Corryville, and all the kids lined up, and I bought them all ice cream every Thursday.
Okay, I love that. It's a different version of the broken windows theory for New York City. I like it. It's the ice cream version of it.
Yeah, it's a great book.
We've been talking about your entrepreneurial capabilities and how you started with your risk taking. I want to move to leadership, but before I do, I think it would be helpful for others to understand how you grew. I mean, can you talk a little bit about your scale? Because we said you started with one property, but I think before we go to the leadership, it's helpful for people to understand you now run a big organization, and that scale is really impressive.
Yeah, when you start a little company, you never imagine it being a big company. And it really happens organically for most people. And so I was a one-man show. I would go see a banker, and then I'd show an apartment, and then I would fix a dishwasher, and then I would paint, and then I would go look for another house to buy. And what happens is in small organizations is you only have so many hours in a day. And so the only way you're going to grow an organization is begin to lever your time. And by levering your time, you take off one hat at a time, and you give it to someone else. You hire a leasing agent, and now they're out, and you have to trust that they're doing what they say they're going to do. And one of my core values is hire the people you trust and trust the people you hire. I've always given our employees a lot of autonomy, and I tell them to bring their brains to work, and I expect that. But really, it was a slow crawl. In the beginning, I really wanted to be a big fish in a small pond. Basically, own all the buildings myself and do whatever I could do within the capacity of my own ability to finance those. That turned out to be a decision that slowed my growth for really 15 years until I had to go out and embrace and find investors, give up slices of the pie, and become a smaller fish in a bigger pond, which ultimately allowed us to accelerate our growth over time.
And it is such a challenge with entrepreneurs with scaling because you're trading off some of the control, but you're doing that through trust, as you said, through partnerships.
Yeah.
How did your leadership change? I mean, you talked about a little bit how you scaled, right, with handing off the hats. I love that. I can picture that metaphor. But how did your leadership style?
I had to get used to people bringing problems to me. When you're doing it by yourself, you're the problem solver. And to lead, you're really asking your team to continually identify problems, finding solutions, and getting out of the weeds was very difficult for me because I was the guy doing all the weeding for a long time. But it was really building that core group of what now is almost our executive team, because they've been there for 20 years, many of them, and really allowing them to run with the ball. They understand the core values of the company, and I would hold them accountable to lead for me and with me. And I think, my leadership style is one that was rather unstructured in the beginning, I will admit. But I really leaned on them to find the solutions and drive the company to our core values that we all agree on. We also quickly moved to having kind of annual retreats to make sure that the communication interdepartmentally was done. It's one of the bigger challenges as you're growing an organization that everyone knows what people are doing, why they're doing it, how, when. And so interdepartmental communication has always been a focus of ours.
And it sounds like you've even as you've grown and been more hands-off, you're still very hands-on. And maybe it's in the conceptual pieces, and you think about how all the puzzle pieces are fitting together so well. One of the things that we've talked about, I mean, you work so closely with our UC Center for Real Estate, and I've come to deeply value that group. I mean, I'm not in real estate, I'm in management, but it is so interdisciplinary. And it's something I valued with Gary Painter coming in and thinking about our work with engineering and with DAP. I'm going to ask you to put a little bit more of your urban planner hat on, because I love when I hear you talk and think aloud. You do think like very much like an urban planner, even though you're very much an investor, and you think about the finance side, which is more what we think is maybe a typical real estate approach. But you seem to balance in, I think, in exceptional ways, the realities of business growth and the investments and partners that come in there with the responsibility of shaping neighborhoods. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you manage that balancing act there.
I care deeply about the neighborhoods, especially the neighborhoods of the Uptown. They're critically important to the university thriving. In the late 90s, Short Vine, as an example, really fell into deep despair, and there was a lot of serious crime, homicides, and we gathered the University of Cincinnati, the city of Cincinnati, a couple major stakeholders along with us, and we did an urban renewal plan. And I had never been involved in an urban renewal plan before. And it created a roadmap, and many of these urban renewal plans go into a drawer somewhere, and it's a big wish. And we took that urban renewal plan and carried it around with us and went into the Corryville Community Council and said, this is what they said we had to do, and continued to drive that. I'd go to the city, I'd go to the university. This is the plan we all agreed on, and I kept pulling it out. That plan was the 2004 Corryville Urban Development Plan. And if you look at that plan today, we have completed that plan.
Okay, that's impressive.
And that plan called for 2,000 people to be new residents to be living on Short Vine, for example. One of the big challenges in doing this is dragging the investors along, because investors, they may not care about the neighborhood. They are only
returns.
They're only looking at returns. And so we have a passionate group of investors who are willing to follow me into these neighborhoods. And I think it's critically important, and it has paid big dividends, because when you're successful, you are part of the renaissance of a neighborhood, and you do get those returns. And so, there's a high risk there, but there is a reward there of being in Corryville 20 years earlier than others, and in Mount Auburn. And I'll tell you, one of the best examples is we bought an acre of land in Corryville where the Eden sits today, and it was auctioned off by the city of Cincinnati in the early 1990s, and they started at $1, and I bid $1, and I bought it for $1. No one else bid on that, in the middle of a real slum where crime was very, very high. And so that's the reward side of it. That's the risk side of being able to see a neighborhood, being able to see something around the corner before it's developed, and then relying on your instincts to take it there and understand the risk reward of that. Mount Auburn is another prime example where everyone was talking about connecting uptown and downtown, yet there had been no private investment in Mount Auburn in almost 60 years, other than Christ Hospital. No investors were going in there building housing, building apartments, building infrastructure, remodeling the parks. And we identified
60 years, though.
when everyone was talking about
right.
connecting uptown and downtown. And so we we assembled the land for Wellington, Alto. So we went into Mount Auburn, found investors who were willing to spend $100 million in Mount Auburn, and now Mount Auburn has taken root.
I love hearing you, Dan, because I can picture in my mind. I mean, you're such a developer. I mean, yes, there's the physical development, there's the neighborhood development, but there's very much the human development. I mean, and you see these working synergistically, and
Yeah.
you clearly are able to share that vision effectively with investors, whether or not they really want to lean into the really big pictures. It is going to pay off,
Yeah.
as well.
And you have to bring the neighborhood along.
You have to,
I mean,
especially to sustain.
the fact that Hollister Street is a two-way street now, which allows people to cut up to Mount Auburn from Vine Street, which used to be one way down, right? It takes ambulance traffic away, it helps.
Right.
But you have to be able to bring these ideas to the neighborhood, to the city, and marshal them through. And there is no return on investment for us to do that other than get to see the neighborhood flourish and ultimately all boats rise with the tide.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think in that developer mindset, let's go a little bit more into the human side, because it strikes me that you've always taken your role as a role model and a mentor seriously. And when it comes to young and rising leaders, I'd be interested in what qualities you're looking for in young professionals entering real estate or entrepreneurs today that you see, oh, I see that spark. What are you looking for?
You know, it's a great question. First of all, when I meet my mentees, I always meet them either 7:30 or 8 in the morning for coffee. So the first thing I look for is someone who shows up on time.
Absolutely.
And I also look for people who aren't so worried about making a lot of money early on. So I'm looking for people who are trying to develop the craft, and understand that a lot of people come and they say, I want to be a developer. There is no major for developers. There is no, a developer is someone who has some urban planning, some architects, some finance, and a lot of different pieces that are put together. And so what I look for in mentees who come and ask for advice is, where should I jump in? What do I need to be learning? They're not asking, how do I go make the most amount of money tomorrow? It's really, what do I need to learn? Where do I go to get that? How can I be involved? Can I watch? You know, something I learned through a process is people only learn through 3 different ways: experience, exposure, and formal education, the 3 E's. And how people pursue that is very, very important. Yes. College, MBAs, very important educationally, but then it's, are you going to go swim, or are you going to go watch someone learn how to swim? And are you going to take these plans down to the permit desk, or are you going to send someone else? And getting that experience and exposure is really how you ultimately become a developer. And so I look for kids, especially, who are prompt and want to understand how they need to learn the craft.
I love that 3-pronged. I mean,
they're all E's.
They are. And we invented cooperative education here because we believe that they can work together really well.
They need to.
I mean, if you can build that synergistic, the exposure, the experience, and the formal education, it's a win-win. And you've worked with UC and Lindner a long time. I mean, you have quite a pipeline of Bearcats in your office. I wonder how you might describe our students if you were talking to other employers as we build out our pipeline for partners, co-op employers in the future. Is there something that you see of the work that we do, and what can we learn from your experience?
Well, the co-op program is unmatched as far as I know, and I encourage so many employers to take advantage of it because it's really the other 2 E's. It's the experience and the exposure. that co-op students are getting, and you need all 3 to learn to understand and to succeed. The students coming out of UC, especially in the co-op program, we've had so many. Our vice president of property management, who's on our executive team, started as a part-time leasing agent and then co-opt, and then ultimately has worked his way all the way through the ranks. But we love our UC co-ops.
And I love to hear that, Dan, very much. I mean, you were once in their shoes, right? You were a student. If you were looking back and talking to yourself then, is there any particular lesson or lessons you'd really want us to be instilling in the student today to help them on this journey?
That's a great question. I'm thinking about our co-ops that we've hired. We often try to get co-ops in 6-month tranches instead of 3 months. We found that 3 months, by the time the onboarding, the training, it felt too short to us because there's so much to learn. We found that our 6-month co-ops were very, very successful. And so we would kind of seek our 6-month co-ops. But it's, I told my son, who's in Chicago working for a real estate company, I said, Jake, do not worry. If you need to go get your boss a cup of coffee,
absolutely,
that's fine. You're in the room, you're learning, you're getting experience, you're getting exposure. And so it's really, don't worry about if you're sweeping a floor or you're preparing a spreadsheet or you're getting coffee or you get called into the executive team meeting to help present something. It's all part of the final cake that you're building. They're all ingredients. And you have to be willing to do all of it.
You do.
To bake a cake. You can't just you can't forget the flour or the eggs or the vanilla. You really need all the ingredients to become a young professional. Don't be too proud.
Don't be too proud. And don't be too inflexible, because one piece I heard you saying, it was something we thought so much about when we were moving the college to mandatory co-op, which engineering and DAP have been since it's the onset, certainly engineering from the onset. We realized we needed to have a more flexible program because different employers want different things. And I think the 6-month is a wonderful example of something we could lean into more.
Yeah.
Because I agree, the ups and downs of startup and ramp down, there's a whole value to the way you just said it. We could use you as an example for others. So thank you for that.
You touched on real estate being interdisciplinary, and I remember speaking with Dr. Santa Ono, and he really pushed kind of the interdisciplinary piece to it, because real estate it's architecture, it's urban planning, it's finance, and
it's sales.
It's every piece. And so the interdisciplinary approach to it is critically important to be teaching, and for the students when they're considering co-ops to explore and understand, even though they have their eyes set on finance or their eyes set, because that experiential learning helps you when you're putting your assumptions in the spreadsheet.
Absolutely. And learn how to work with others from different disciplines and
right
into that bigger model. The other piece that's a little different from interdisciplinary is almost interlevel. And what I mean by that is you think about the community in a really beautiful way. And I have found in my line of work that the greatest leaders think about their jobs well beyond their organizations. You think about Cincinnati. You've always thought about Cincinnati, and it shows in your volunteer work, as an example, that goes well beyond. I mean, into healthcare and research and community organizations. I would love you to share a bit why you take the time to do that, because I'd love the students in particular to understand there's a bigger world out there than your job, and your job matters a great deal, but you've leaned into volunteerism in some really impactful ways. Why?
I get enormous satisfaction from seeing a problem and being part of the solution. And that core satisfaction runs through my professional life and my non-professional life. And no different than I saw a problem of not being able to find decent housing as a student and wanting to be part of that solution is the same when I see elderly people and they're unable to care for their yard. And I got involved with people working cooperatively, and I could see how this helped. I could see when I walk down to over the Rhine and I'm stepping over litter on my 3-mile walk to Findlay Market to understand that we have a trash problem in Cincinnati and getting involved in Keep Cincinnati Beautiful. I get enormous personal satisfaction and professional satisfaction out of seeing and identifying a problem and being part of a team that finds a solution to it. And it really will be my next chapter when I hang up my developer hat. I want to lean into that. I want to be part of the solution as problems come up. Cincinnati has been a great city. It's a 5-generation city for our family. And I really want to make it as good as it can possibly be, and will do what I'm able to contribute.
Which we've already seen is enormous.
Thank
what
you.
you can contribute. I mean, I sometimes feel for the students today in that and debate how to show them how much this area has transformed. This is not the same place it was when I got here in 97. You've been here since 80. And it continues. What do you see as the future? You look in your crystal ball. I mean, you just shared where you're going to go.
Yeah.
You're really going to lean in more to the community. What do you see as the opportunities for Cincinnati, and particularly the area around campus?
I love the urban core in Cincinnati and other urban cores. I'm so interested in the lifestyle of living the urban core versus suburban. Uptown is really the second largest economic engine in the city. I guess you could consider the Greater Cincinnati Airport as a big economic engine. Also, when you really look at it as downtown and uptown, the interchange at Martin Luther King and the Innovation Corridor still remains really the biggest untapped urban resource in Cincinnati by far. The biggest opportunity. There's $1 billion of development still to happen, and the connectivity of all of the jobs up here at Children's Hospital, UC Health, University of Cincinnati, the other hospitals, Christ Hospital, and the proximity to downtown, the proximity to the highways, the corporate integration that UC is managing through their 1819 hub. I think there's just enormous upside in the uptown still left. I think, we've seen a great recovery from the blight of the 80s and 90s and really early 2000s. We have repopulated the neighborhoods. I think working on the pedestrian connectivity is going to be critically important. It's going to be very, very interesting as AI, autonomous vehicles, and all these other pieces continue to emerge. It's obviously going to change the trajectory, but I think it's quite. I think we're well on our way, but there's a lot of rope left in these neighborhoods.
I think that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Because there is more potential. Excuse me. We'll cut that out. It's exciting because there is such potential ongoing. I mean, we're going to continue to watch it transform, and I hope it continues to make you proud. It certainly makes me proud and energized of what's possible ahead.
And you see the university, I mean, practically weekly, they're announcing new buildings, new initiatives, new programs, how they're rolling things out, how it's growing. I mean, this university is not sitting on its hands, and
It stands for under construction.
that's right. But I mean, it's been extraordinary, and our growth and the neighborhood's growth is only but for the growth of Children's Hospital, UC Health, the University of Cincinnati, the surrounding institutions. We're really part of it, but it's the institutions that need to continue to thrive and create the jobs and create the platforms for the students to want to come here and stay here.
Yeah. Oh, make it a magnet.
Yeah,
An attractor and
retain.
retention.
Yeah.
Both. I absolutely agree. This has been such a wonderful conversation because it epitomizes why you're being recognized at our major event for the UC Real Estate Center. And I'm really excited about that.
Thank
And
you.
I wondered if you'd just share why and how you've been working with the center over these years, because we so appreciate you.
Thank you. It was really interesting. We were doing a lot of work in Tallahassee, Florida, at the same time we were doing a lot of work here. About really, if you go back 10 years, and I was already really involved in the real estate school here and Bear member. And then you had asked about leadership and employees. We had several employees really step up. Craig Kaufman in our office really stepped up into a leadership role at the school. And I think it's just critically important. Development and real estate are just so important to a city, and supporting the real estate school like we were doing at Florida State University that has an extraordinary real estate school. It's brought us a lot of joy and a lot of success, and we've been able to watch these kids grow out of this program into real estate professionals in the city. And I have a lot of friends who run companies in town that came out of the co-op program and came out of the real estate school specifically that are thriving. And it's been really very, very rewarding to watch and see.
I love to hear that. Thank you for helping us develop the future professionals of development, of real estate, but also for continuing to help this region thrive.
Great.
It is such a pleasure, Dan.
Thank you. My pleasure. This has been fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Bearcats Mean Business. If today's episode sparked a new idea, challenged your thinking, or helped you see your path a little more clearly, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the episode with someone in your network. Thanks for being part of the conversation. And remember, real-world success begins here at Lender.